30 years ago, Mazda introduced one of the most iconic roadsters of all time. It's one of the most enjoyable, reliable sports cars for topless motoring, and it's an unstoppable legend on the amateur racing circuit. Zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom, zoom. From 16-year-olds to 60 plus, we all know that Miata is always the answer. They look great slammed, and heck, I even dig the safari builds on them. But this video is to answer the question, which generation is your ideal car? Everyone at one point in their life should own a Miata. And to get that journey started, go snag one of these limited ideal tees. And for this video, I'm gonna go through all 4 generations and talk about the things that I like about each. And at the end of this video, you'll know exactly which generation is your ideal Miata. It's great to see you guys again. Let's go. So I want to start out with the ND, which is the latest generation of Miata. And that car came out in 2016 and it is extremely good. Yeah, it won World Car of the Year award, and that is absolutely incredible, but it is well deserved. See, the early NDs came with this 2-liter 4-cylinder that was rated at only 155 horsepower. And yeah, that seems pretty small for today's standards, but it actually moved it quite well. Given that the Miata is roughly 2,300 pounds, these things would scoot from 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. And like every generation we're gonna talk about, you could get either an automatic or manual transmission. And so, yeah, I think as an enthusiast, we should all opt for the manual, of course, because it's 6-speed manual. But if you wanna let your left foot take a rest, well, the automatic isn't that bad of a choice either in the ND. Now, a couple years into their production run, they came out with the ND2, the facelift. And not only did they get a bump in horsepower to 181, but they also came out with one of my favorite variants. It's the retractable fastback, and it looks nothing like its soft top convertible brother, as it looks a lot more like a coupe. Now, if you're looking for the ultimate daily driver Miata and price isn't really an option, the ND is gonna do it the best. It's the newest, it's the most powerful, and it's easily going to be the most livable. And luckily, the NDs, the first couple of years, are actually coming into, well, relatively good pricing, especially when you think about what you get. So let's take a look at where the prices are and what you can get. So here we are on Auto Tempest, and if we check out the Mazda Miata, starting with the lowest price, and this is nationwide. Now here's a $13,000 Sport. For $13,900, you can get a 16 Sport. Now, let's pop back over here and see what else is out there. $14,399, a Grand Touring with 30,000 miles. Now let's see what the high prices are. And here we go, some Grand Touring 2020. So, you know, you can see that they're between 30,000 and plus for a brand new 2020, a little over 30 grand. They only made a few of these. This is actually really cool. It's the 30th anniversary with a manual. Yeah, this would be a lot of fun if you wanted to tear up some racetracks. But the first real total revision, it's a totally new car, was the NC Miata. And they started building these in 2006. And in all honesty, the 3rd gen MX-5 is an excellent buy. Yeah, a lot of people complain that it is a bit soft, but when you're behind the wheel, you're gonna be able to hoon it just like any other Miata. See, back when the NC first showed up, all the enthusiasts that had NAs and NBs thought that all the revisions that Mazda made were just quote unquote bad. If you just look at it, it's a lot bigger and heavier, and it looks bigger than it actually is. Now, it came with more luxuries, which the enthusiasts actually looked at that as a negative, but the 2-liter actually put out a healthy 170 horsepower. And although it's the heaviest Miata at over 2,400 pounds, 0 to 60 comes in a respectable 7.5 seconds. Plus, it got the power retractable hardtop. And lucky for you, it doesn't interfere with trunk space at all. So you can still rip your Miata to the beach and have a picnic. Now, you may be thinking to yourself that the NC is definitely more modern and, well, on paper it's better than the NA or NB, but how does it hold up to the ND? Well, simply put, the ND is just a better car all around. But what that did to prices of the NC is it pushed them down and down and down when the ND came out. It actually is probably the best value on this list. Yeah, so if we go to 2006 up to 2015 and check out the results here, starting at the lowest price, you can see that the NCs, believe it or not, you guys, you can snag one for under $5,000. So as we scroll down a little bit, you can see a Touring for $5,300, 5.5, wow, this one's awesome. 140,000 miles, beautiful blue Touring. Looks like it's seen a couple of apexes. And yes, again, it has the automatic transmission. Let's go back here and actually just look for manual transmission only. Here we go, you guys. So still under 5 grand, 5,500, under 6,000 bucks, you can pick up an NC. Pretty awesome. Now let's take a look at the high part of the market. To be expected, we see some late model years in here. We have a 15, 14, but still not absurd. I mean, $20,000 is about as much as you can spend on an NC Miata. And the fact that you can get one for around $5,000, that does probably about 75 to 80% of what the ND does, which is about 3 times that price. I don't know, this definitely is one of the best values out there for sports cars that you can do the motoring topless. Okay, so there we go. Roughly $5,000 to $6,000 and you can get yourself into a good NC Miata. Now, let's take a step back into history and talk about the NB Miata, because this was the sports car that came out after the NA, which took the world by storm. Literally, no one could get enough of that thing. And that had that one styling cue that, well, everybody loves. Them pop-up headlights. And so the NB, well, the retractable headlamps were deleted because they no longer passed pedestrian safety standards. It was a lighter car than the NC, weighing in at 2,299 pounds, but the 1.8 liter only pushed out 140 horses. And personally, here's the rebuttal of those pop-up headlights. If you take a look at the rear of the NA, it's a pretty bland rear end. But if you take a glance at the rear end of the NB, it's much better looking. So I guess you can either have it up front or you can have it in the back, but you can't have both. Now, the early NBs were a good car, but in 2001, they made a couple improvements that you actually want to probably look for. Not only did they now get projector headlights, but under the hood, they got the variable valve timing, which added some horsepower and overall drivability. And yes, the NB1 10th Anniversary Edition, with its Bilstein shocks, front strut tower bar, and an optional 6-speed, was the first time ever that the Miata got the option for a manual 6-speed, not a 5. And that extra gear really helped with the drivability of the car. But that wasn't the only first. See, in 2004, Mazda Speed got their hands on the Miata and added a little turbski. Yeah, for 2 years, you could get a factory turbo Miata with 178 horsepower, which was always ready for a good time. Now, there is a saying that the NA Miata is a better Miata and the NB is a better car, but they're both getting to that age now that you just want to find the best car that you can. Since they're pretty much the same exact sports car underneath, condition is the #1 thing that you should look for. And if you're budgeting for an NB Miata, you got 3,900 bucks, 4,200 bucks. I mean, you're really under 5 grand. You're gonna find a pretty nice package with 150 or so thousand miles. Let's take a look at this 99. It's a base manual, 152,000 miles, aftermarket wheels, but I mean, this is something that is a great platform to start with and start customizing. Now, let's take a look at the top of the spectrum. And like what we were talking about earlier, the Mazda Speed is up there, as well as this O2. Now, let's focus on this Mazda Speed because this is the type of car that is extremely unique. They didn't make a ton of them. I think they made less than 6,000 of them. And this is the type of car that you can buy and enjoy and definitely add some miles to and still get close to what you have in it. It's a perfect candidate to use the ideal car strategies with. But before we get into the NA prices, we gotta talk about just how special this original Japanese sports car is and why so many people just love them. To do this, you gotta go back 30 years. And that's when Mazda launched this little 2-door sports car that people could not get enough of. In fact, just after 10 years of launching the Miata, the Guinness Book of World Records announced that it was the best-selling sports car in the world. And most of that success was thanks to the NA. Just look at its charm. It's simple, it really just looks the part, and how can you not love those pop-up headlights? It had the looks of a British sports car combined with the reliability of a Toyota. And when Mazda first launched this car, it had a measly 1.6 liter engine in it. So 0 to hero took, well, at least 8 seconds. Now, a few years in, they did update the Miata and they put a 1.8 liter engine in. Yet if you were to drive them back to back, you really wouldn't be able to tell any difference unless one was in way better condition than the other. But a lot of these cars rusted, and they can turn into money pits really quick. And if you're keen on getting an NA Miata, definitely make sure you get one with the 5-speed manual transmission. It is one of the crispest, slickest transmissions you've ever shifted, and that's stock. Now, if we take a look at prices, again, you don't want to buy the cheapest one in the nation for a 30-year-old car, so I'd be looking at something around 6,000 bucks and more. This is beautiful. It's an NA8, so it's got the 1.8 liter in it, and yeah, that looks like a ball of fun. Now, if we go back and we check out the highest prices, look at that. Again, almost $20,000, NA, NB, or NC. You can buy any. The top is gonna be about 20 grand. The bottom is roughly about $5,000. We saw a couple lower for an NB, but overall, guys, I mean, if you're gonna spend over $10,000 on an NA, or an NB, I would really push you to either get that Mazda Speed or go for an ND, like a 2016, and that's gonna be the best bang for buck. So guys, I understand the love affair for the NA, the pop-up headlights, but I don't know if it's the best Miata. What is the best Miata in your eyes? Let us know down in the comments. I'm trying to get my head around this. I've had a ton of fun researching and learning more about the Miatas. I've never driven an ND. I've driven the Fiat version, which is very comparable, but a ton of fun. And I think those NBs and NCs look like a ton of fun. So let me know which one is your favorite and why down in the comments. Love to read through them and learn a little bit more about you guys. Now, if you enjoyed this video, my name's Brad Danger. Go smash the subscribe button and the like button as well. Really helps the channel. Tell your friends about Ideal Media. We're just trying to make the most honest content we possibly can for you guys. Don't forget to snag a shirt, and as always, keep living that ideal lifestyle.